Hi, I'm a professional editor and I've always wanted to expand my horizons by talking to other editors and sound designers, music composers, visual effects supervisors, essentially all the magicians who silently and invisibly work behind the scenes. This series is an attempt to make the invisible artists visible. I hope you enjoy the conversations.
Thank you for joining me for this session, Pratim. I was particularly keen on talking to you since you're the writer, director, and creator of Tooth Pari. And you've obviously been a part of the edit as well with me and the edit team. So I thought this would be a good opportunity
Yeah.
to discuss the evolution of Tooth Pari from script to screen and also examine the correlation between directing and editing, which are all obviously so interdependent. So to begin with, I wanted to ask you: do you think the series has lived up to what you'd imagined at the outset?
Yes and no, and that's a good thing, I would say, because yes, there are parts which are how I had thought on paper. That's how they turned out to be on screen. But no, because there were many things that we found in edit. We found a style in edit, and that's a great thing because I'm a strict believer that once the footage has been shot, it's best to throw away the original script and kind of whatever we have now is the script, and you rewrite the script, you edit the script based on what you have shot, and so for Toothpuri that was a great achievement. I would say that what evolved in the editing process is a new beast and a beast which works best from uh, from the time we shot. So yeah, I think yes and no, and that's a great thing that it's not exactly how it was in the script. Maybe it's turned out better.
Early on, I remember we had a few conversations when you were still in shoot, and you were kind of looking at lineups at that point, and you were kind of also happy that we were finding the right tone, which is kind of sexy yet eerie. But you also had some thoughts on, whether we are able to achieve, because it's a difficult tone. There isn't one
Yeah.
particular overarching tone. It's comedic, there's pathos, there's a lot of romance, there are a lot of comedy as well. Was this a concern for you from the writing stage? Like, was it at the back of your head that, you know will we be able to achieve this or not eventually?
So what I've discovered about my own writing is that it hops genres a lot. Even in my earlier films, Machel Joel is essentially a food relationship film, but somewhere kind of the clock starts ticking and it kind of becomes a thriller whether he'll be able to make the fish curry before his mother dies. So this genre hopping is something I think which naturally comes in my writing, and I don't kind of curtail myself that just because I'm doing an emotional film, I shouldn't pace it up or shouldn't. So there is a natural affinity of mine to kind of keep the ball rolling, so as to say, just because it's a love story, is I'm not going to indulge myself and you know. So in that regard, the writing, while it was hopping a lot of genres and it was going from one tone to another, I never felt like that anything was forced. When I
Hmm.
was writing it, I never felt that it was forced. So just to give an example, episode one I think is safe without spoiling anything. So there is a scene where a police station OC is making fun of Badshah, who's a guy who's come in and to file a complaint, and the OC is making fun of him. So
Hmm.
it's got funny lines, and I've seen it with a room full of people. There are laughters which are coming, but the scene ends with Sikandar's character where he's insulted, and that's funny for the people, the cops, but from his point of view, it's very melancholic and it's very sad. And I think the edit uh, uh, and the BGM in tandem uh, kind of was able to shift tones, not just in this scene, but in many scenes. Uh, the switching was instant, but the switching works. I would
Hmm.
say largely those switches have worked, and that's thanks to the edit, the pacing, the short length, and also to Neil Adhikari's background music, which kind of seamlessly goes from a thriller to pathos to funny,
Yeah,
as per the requirement. Yeah, yeah.
true. But tell me also, in terms of, obviously, with series, inevitably we have to cut down, and with streaming in particular, we have to end up cutting down a lot. I think I've seen that across most projects, because there is a certain requirement in terms of pacing and, moving to beats every few seconds. Was that hard for you, because you've lived with the script for a really long time, and then you put in so much effort to shoot certain scenes? Did you find it really difficult to lose these things?
So, my guru in this regard of sorts and in a lot of things is Ritu Parna Ghosh, Ritu Da. He never ever sat for the first cut. And his editor almost every film, if not all the films, is Orgho Kamul Mitra.
Yeah.
And Orghoda edited my first film. And he explained to me what the thinking was, that because you are so attached to your own material as a director, even if you have not written it, you will never be able to look at the material from an objective point of view. So if the editor, who ideally shouldn't be in the shooting process,
Hmm.
if he or she comes in with a fresh pair of eyes, a fresh angle at the storyline, a fresh and approach to every scene, then something else will come out which you would have never been able to even imagine. So this is something which I've followed in all my features. I've done 7 feature films before this, all Bengali films. This is my first Hindi project, Hindi series, Hindi fiction work. Uh, so that is what I followed here also. What uh, you know, we can call it lineup, we can call it the first cut. But when I first saw episodes of Kuchpari at the edit in
Hmm.
one flow, it was kind of some scenes were just calling out to me, please get me out of here. Like, they didn't fit. And I was like, isko aage badhate hain, next scene pe jate hain. Whenever I felt that was happening, I was like, maybe this scene needs to go or needs to go somewhere else.
Hmm.
Maybe in some other episode. Maybe it needs to be really shortened. Was a very favorite scene of mine at the script level between David and Mira, which was a long, long scene.
Yeah.
And you know about that scene, where nothing happens as far as the plot goes, but we get to see David and Mira in action.
Hmm.
Maybe as a short film, if we put it out on YouTube, or if Netflix ever puts it out, it will be a lot of laughs, and it will be very funny now that we know what David and Mira do in the story. But in that episode, it looked like it just didn't belong there. It suddenly put a break in our story, in our flow, and it had to go, no matter if it had the best lines of the entire series. The famous book by Satyajit Ray, Our Films, Their Films, had this lovely line that there was a shot of Durga in Potter Pachali where she looked so beautiful. But when the moment I put it in the edit, the scene was completely ruined, and so I had to throw it out. So I think it's it's a very natural. If you want the best for your own show or your own film or own series, you have to let go of things. And I think I'm so glad I'm not one of those directors who kind of latch on to their things as if their life
Yeah.
depends on it. I don't know why that happens. I mean, if when you're watching it, if you're still in love with what you have written, then you have not, I think, evolved. Your story hasn't evolved. Your understanding of the material has not evolved. Antura, you and me both come from the same college in Calcutta, various. So our head of the department there, Shubha Dash Molli, her daughter was part of the Oscar-winning edit team of Elephant Whisperers.
Yeah.
She had once said, like after 6 months from my first film, it was called Panch Udhar, she had said, now you understand your film better. So that kind of stayed with me, that I have been able to understand my own film much after the film has released. I'm sure there are parts of Toothfairy uh, which can be many, many times better. Some casting could have been better. So there are many choices which could have been better because I, as a director, haven't understood fully that particular part, which I might understand later or
Hmm.
might not understand. This understanding of your own material is, I think, paramount for a thing for a thing to really evolve into something worth watching. I think one has to completely detach till they kind of look at the edit from just a very critical point of view and kind of look at it like they are watching someone else's work.
So, Pratim, one very interesting change I think that we discovered along the way, as you said, you kind of observing the film almost from someone else's point of view. Something interesting that we ended up doing in the first episode itself was actually you had that Tanga party. And initially, the way it was written, it was supposed to be two different timelines and two different points of view. So, one was Rumi's, and on a different day, then it's Roy's, and then you kind of realize that they were at the same party. And I think one of the major
Yeah.
changes we made structurally was this. So, do you want to just discuss a little bit as to how you imagined it, and then the reasons why we decided to do the restructure?
So the best thing is that I remember very vaguely about what I had written. I think which is a great thing because of course this show has also taken 3 years to make. I think I wrote it out in 2020. Yeah, so it's been some time. Especially the first episode was definitely written in 2020. Uh, what I think the initial structure was we start with Rumi
Hmm.
and we are with Rumi till she reaches the party.
Yeah.
And then we go to Roy and we end up at the same party. I think the way I wrote it is that Rumi is in the party. She asks for a glass to the bartender, and
Hmm.
we see this
Yeah.
guy sitting there, and we switch perspectives. So I think it was an interesting structure, but once you showed me what the way you approached it, I thought it worked very well. Here also, the two POVs are different, but it that I think it was a little gimmicky of kind of landing up at the same party. So we were able to take that out, and now the party came very organically, and I think it works much better. Also, I think in episode 8 you have done a lot of very interesting changes. I don't think we can say much because it might spoil someone who's not watched the show.
Yeah.
But after the climactic set piece, I think it's very interestingly intercut with the next scene, and I think that has given the climactic crescendo a completely. I think has taken it to another level. And when I first saw it, I was like, wow, man, that this is something which could have only been achieved in edit. You cannot write that. Do you think that could have been written? I don't think that could have been written.
Difficult to say. I think so much of it is also, and that's where, I so agree that writing direction, especially direction of performances, and
Yeah,
editing, there you just don't know where one begins and the other ends. Like if you have to
yeah,
say, oh, how much of Tutpari has been created in edit, how much in writing, and how much in what you got in terms of performances, it's a very, very
yeah,
fine line actually.
yeah. So
Yeah.
when critics say that, editing is sloppy, oh, the editing is so crisp. I don't
Crisp.
know where they come from.
Crisp is
Yeah,
my
I don't know
favorite.
what crisp editing. Yeah, what does it mean? Like it's like toast. Like I
It's
don't know
like
what
toast.
it.
No, and then there
But
is also,
yeah,
yeah, there's like, yeah, I think that's the thing. Then that's such a, like, I'm always amazed when people are so confident about pointing out whether an edit is good or bad. Because I think
yeah,
even if I'm watching or you're watching a film or a series, I think it's very hard to say where what part is attributed to the writing or the direction or the editing or certain choices made by different people. So yeah, I think that's. But I want to get onto the film criticism part a little later. I'm going to come back to
yeah.
that.
Sure, sure.
Um, I,
Yeah,
I wanted to know from you that, as you said, you've done a number of films in Bengal earlier. How
yeah.
different was the experience? A, because this was your first Hindi language, first proper Hindi language, like long format narrative, and also this was your first web series. So, what was your experience like? How was this different from what you have been used to, and how much did you have to recalibrate?
So the long form writing was a challenge. It's
Hmm.
something that I've always wanted to do, to write something which happens over 8 episodes, to end an episode with a cliffhanger, to start an episode with a cold open. It's something I've always watched other shows and wanted to do it myself, and so this was a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed writing Toothpuri. There were two others, Namrit and Nandini, with whom I developed the story. And then Sejal, who lives in US, she wrote two screenplays. I wrote six of them. And then the dialogue process, Rupal and Shruti, along with me coming in with all the Bengali that you hear. So it was a very enjoyable. I love, in fact, with every passing project, I'm loving the writing, I'm loving the editing and the BGM, the shooting bit. This time it was, there were other external nightmares like COVID,
Yeah.
and a lot of us got COVID. This was thankfully the one which was not that, the Omicron type. Anyway, so yeah, I think it was a very interesting experience in terms of Bengali film versus Hindi web series. We usually shoot our Bengali films within 15 days now. I know. Yeah.
Wow. Whoa. Oh my God.
So 15 days, 105 minutes. So that's 7 minutes a day.
Yeah.
That's why you see so many chamber dramas in Bengal because it's easier to shoot conversations
Sure.
than.
Sure.
Yeah. So here we had the luxury of up to 5 minutes. Uh, that was a big luxury. I know it doesn't sound that much, 5 minutes,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
it is, quite a lot because uh, 2 minutes is a lot, in terms of ready material.
Yeah.
We had a much bigger crew. We had, of course, a bigger budget that allowed us to shoot with multiple cameras, to hire the best technician, uh, to create artificial moons for the climax, uh, and generally comfortable, more comfortable. There is no rush to, we have to finish these 5 scenes today before pack
Hmm.
up. Of course, there was still, when you're getting a particular location just for a day, that pressure is always there. But
Yeah.
Bengali films are more like a force of nature. You just, those 15 days, it just goes in a blur. So much has to be shot. So, yeah, this was much more comfortable. It took a lot of time. I'm used to like making a film in 8 months. Uh,
Wow.
in
Right.
terms of, yeah, like a month of, say if you have your script ready,
Yeah.
then a Bengali film will take, it can have 1 month of pre-production, 15 days of shoot, uh, and then couple of months, maybe 3 months of edit, BGM, VFX.
Oh my.
Uh,
Oh wow.
so the whole turnaround can be 6 months.
Wow.
Of course, you will find Bengali filmmakers who dish out 4 films a year.
Oof.
Don't ask me how. Uh, and
That's
they
crazy.
are very good films. Given that they are doing 4 films a year,
Huh.
they are very good films. But I have never done. I've not never been able to do that. I have done like a film a year, which is
Okay.
a luxury in Bengal because the payment, even for writer directors, is so low. So
Hmm.
just to someone to sustain, making just one film of a year is quite a bit of a luxury. So
Yeah.
from there to make this one project over 3 years, it's it's something else altogether. So when people keep asking me when is Story 2 coming out, of
Yeah.
course I would be happy if there is a
But you're
two.
doing the
I
math that
immediately
it's
think another 3 years with Eddie's wig and Shantanu's question and Sikandar's torturing me with his joke. All great, but just sometimes people want to do something else, then come back and
yeah.
do something
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
So yeah, so unless you're Amir Khan, of course, where you can spend years with one project,
Yeah.
it makes a different mindscape altogether.
Yeah. It's a massive commitment, especially for someone like you who's kind of at the helm of all of it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but tell me something in post in particular, were there any like of course you have like day-to-day challenges in terms of the edit and cracking scenes and everything. Is there anything that you found particularly challenging in this context? Like was there the VFX, for instance, was I know it was a crazy kind of process,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
one had to start it early. Then there were multiple vendors and all of that. But anything, including VFX, that you just want to discuss that you thought was a really big challenge that you'd not really encountered before?
I think the VFX definitely. There were so many shots which and I wouldn't like to put a number to it, but there were lots and lots and lots of shots which
Hmm.
needed some form of effect.
Yeah.
Uh, by spelling out what they are, I do not want to ruin the viewing experience, but every shot went through 4 or 5 versions, and I had to check all of those 4 or 5 versions of several hundred shots,
Hmm.
and at every version had to I had to send a feedback that this is wrong, this is not working out, and there were multiple vendors, and the vendors were outsourcing it to other smaller vendors. It was quite chaotic,
Yeah.
and uh, everything was at some point paused because the VFX was not done.
Huh.
Uh, so as much as I enjoyed the edit process, as much as I enjoyed the BGM process,
Yeah.
the VFX was a major headache, and they have this amazing knack of never meeting deadlines. And all the what was the term Netflix used those for those days? I forgot what the term was.
Mini, yeah, it was, yeah, mini cut.
No, no, there were terms for you have to kind of deliver IMF. You have to deliver certain
Yeah.
IMFs
The
on
deliverables,
certain
yeah.
dates. The
Yeah.
deliverables, basically, and they would always get stuck because of the effect. And
Yeah.
the moment one episode is delayed, the other episodes are under pressure. So it was, just something avoidable,
Hmm.
but I don't know how. But it was
Yeah.
quite an enjoyable part of the process for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was my first experience with such heavy VFX as well.
Yeah,
And I think, particularly, I also wanted to ask you which scene kind of took you a while to arrive at in the edit. I think one of them would be the finale scene, if we can call it that, which is the
yeah,
standoff. There's a standoff that happens towards the end of the last episode,
yeah,
and which had very heavy visual effects, and we kind of had to recut at several different stages. So that was,
yeah.
I think, definitely quite a challenge.
Yeah, it was a challenge, but I was expecting the challenge.
Hmm,
The scene which was very tricky for me, and I'm very, very happy that no one, neither our knowledgeable critics nor any of the audiences who have had an issue with the fact that episode 5 Rumi makes a choice.
hmm,
I'm not saying what that choice is, but it was a very tricky scene in terms of why she is doing what she's doing.
yeah,
Uh, I had certain thoughts when I first wrote about what she's going to do, but it's a big step for her, and that kind of throws the series also into uh, some kind of a disarray from in terms of relationships,
yeah,
and but I think edit, and this is something we also added something in sound, uh, where something is playing in her mind
yeah,
and she
yeah.
takes a decision. So as I said, I think everything has to come together in the post uh, uh, for every scene to kind of work at its best. I
Hmm,
think I'm a huge believer that every stage of filmmaking, you can improve whatever you already have in front of you. Even sound, sound, I know a lot of directors who do not even turn up for sound sessions. They don't care. But sound is such an interesting tool, you know. Uh, we know the reactions we have got to the train,
yeah,
singing the shake.
yeah,
I have no qualms in saying it was an idea which came much later, and we only did it in post. It was not
yeah,
in the script. You and I sitting in that very room where you're shooting from, we thought let's try this, and it's worked so well. I think
yeah. It's
so.
amazing that
Yeah,
people are kind of, so many people have mentioned it, right?
yeah. A lot of people have mentioned it. Even people in their reviews, people
Yeah,
outside the country, uh, they're like, that was so magical. So yeah, I think a lot can be achieved in post. People think that shooting, because this, your show is about the post process.
yeah.
I would really like to emphasize that every step of the post process can improve your
Hmm.
project, whether it's a film or a series, and keep working on it, and you will find, if you're a new filmmaker, you will always find something which you can improve at every stage.
But I think one thing that
Yeah,
really helped in the way you directed is really allowing everyone to do what they can do, and then you sit back and you make your choice, but then you've always given that
yeah,
freedom. And I think that's really, really helpful, and it's really commendable. And it's really
And
critical in.
once I
Huh.
realized the person involved is, doing his or her job not as a job, but he or she genuinely wants the product to be better, I completely submit to that person. So whether it's you, whether it's me, whether it's Shubhankar, the DOP, I knew they want this to be as good as much as I want it to be good. They are never thinking on the lines कि ये कब खत्म करूंगा मेरा चेक मिलेगा फिर नेक्स्ट प्रोजेक्ट में जाऊंगा. There are people like that. Also, there are people like that who look at films or series as jobs. चलो ये हो गया कुछ 4-5 रील डाल दूंगा इंस्टाग्राम में, लेट्स मूव ऑन. हाँ मैंने so that is disturbing. But otherwise, that's why I think it's very important to work with people who want who give so much of themselves to the project. So that way, I'm very lucky, and I'm very happy that I have a team who want as much, want Toothbury to be as good as I did when I first
Yeah.
thought of it, back in 2020.
Yeah. Since you mentioned Neil, can we also kind of discuss the BGM, because that's really one of the standout elements of the show.
Yeah.
Can you just talk a little bit about what was your initial brief to Neil and how you guys kind of created this very distinct OST or BGM score, whatever one may call it? Just discuss that a
Yeah.
bit.
Neil and I have worked together before. We did a film called Shayad Dil Gulam. He was there in Calcutta. I was there in Calcutta. Neil, I have known, I was a journalist before this. Neil was with a band called Crosswind. Then Neil was with a band called Neil and the Light Bulbs. I think that was his band. Then he also went solo. So he was a singer songwriter. And I live in Bishopsville Park. He lives in very near Vivekananda Park. It's very close by, and I used to just plonk myself there while Shayad Dil Gulam happened. And we just got together very well. It went on to win him a Filmfare Award. Uh, his work in that also is outstanding. So what I understood about Neil is that he is a lover of cinema. He genuinely loves cinema, and so when he watches a scene, he is watching it from the perspective of a film lover, and so he understands instinctively what kind of a score works for that particular scene. Now, my brief was very simple: that if if you are a batsman and a ball is there to be hit it out of the park, even if you get stumped out, even if you get dismissed. This is my first Hindi project. I do not want to block the ball. I do not want to play a very smart, stylish four. I want to step out and hit it out of the stadium. If in that process I get out, no regret. So I told this to Shubhankar while he started shooting, that if you have the choice of playing safe and going wild, go wild. I at the same thing I told me first day, if you are in your head thinking, hey, it's a beshi beshi ho jate, which roughly translates to, this is getting too much. Don't be embarrassed, go too much. So that was the brief. If you don't hold yourself back, and I love, if you look at any of my films, I love carpeting my there's like 95% of it in music. It's not that I'm insecure. I just want to give an experience, and music is one of the tools I use. If camera is one tool, edit is one tool, music is another tool. It's going to be there almost throughout, and it's part of the experience. I'm not hiding my bad acting. I'm not hiding my bad scripting. I'm not hiding anything with the BGM. It's just a part of the whole experience. And Neil, I think, has outdone himself here. I think it's his best score,
Yeah.
and he has a tendency to, in his head, to be very indie, a very independent filmmaker. But in him, I noticed a big music composer, who can give a larger than life. And I always go to Neil when my film or series needs a big, blitz, a big crescendo, something larger than life. I think Toothpuri needed that, and
Yeah.
Neil delivered it and how.
Yeah. Do you want to also talk a little bit about the use of telephone and the SD Burman song?
Yeah. Uh, I think the telephone, I had no second thought because it just seemed the only song that could go in that moment where episode 2, a bunch of 70, 75-year-olds are calling each other up. And this song seemed the perfect song because this was an old song and talks about that I'm waiting for your telephone to come. And this song is something we have all grown up listening to in Calcutta. I think, Gautam is a legend, and even all the Bengali rock bands today, they sing his songs, Moiner Ghoraguli's songs. And I'm so glad that, we could use that song, and thanks to Asha Audio that they allowed us to use the song. And the S.C. Burman song, which was later used by his son in 1942, A Love Story, the same tune was used as a interlude music. Da, 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 da. So this is one of the themes of 1942, A Love Story, and also it was used in one of the song's interludes. Uh, I don't know. I just find it that if there's one song which had to capture the innocence of their love story, Roy Rumi's love story, and also capture the old world charm of Dr. Roy, is as if a boy from 50 years back is operating in today's time. That song kind of, made a lot of sense to me, and it's got its own haunting feel to
Yeah.
it, and it's in Shochin Kotta's own voice, and it's just beautiful, and I'm so glad that the show opens with that song.
Opens with that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's great. I'm really happy that both these songs are there. Yeah,
Yeah. So now, finally, my last question, which is the explosive question. So you've been a film critic with the
yeah,
Telegraph in Calcutta for the longest time. And
yeah.
so now this is a two-parter. I want to know that do you find yourself kind of like, do you have to compartmentalize between the filmmaker, you, and the critic, the film critic, you? Like, do you feel like they bleed into each other in some way? And the second part is that what do you feel about, like, with social media, everyone is a film critic. How do you feel about film criticism as it exists today?
So, completely two different things. I'll briefly talk about myself. So, from 2004 till I think 2015 or so, I have been reviewing films for the Telegraph. That's a long, over a decade. And, it's I'm just grateful that even today, whenever in Calcutta there would be a discussion about film criticism, there would be some reference to me because an entire generation grew up reading
Yeah,
every Saturday my take on the latest Bollywood release.
I did as
Uh,
well.
I was very I was very particular in never reviewing Bengali films
Mm.
because uh, at some point I wanted to make it. So even though my editor at times would say, "Ki, would you like to review this Bengali film?" I would say no. I didn't want to be like a clash of. Then there was briefly a time when my film had Shostika Mukherjee, Shahid Golab. Shostika Mukherjee was an actress in Dibakar's Detective Bomkesh Bakshi. And the worlds were starting to collide. So if
Mm.
I'm reviewing Detective Momke's book She, and Shostika is has to be at least a line or more has to be written about her performance. Anybody would say, "Dekho, Pratimesh Chobite, she was the heroine. He has written good things about her." So Sujay Ghosh, who's I've been very close to him. Uh, we have written scripts together, and he generally likes my writing a lot. He said कि दोनों को पार দিয়ে চললে হবে না. And you
Mm.
cannot be, straddling both this world. You either remain only a critic or you remain only a filmmaker.
Yeah.
I thought there was a lot of sense in that. And I said, that's it. I stopped reviewing films. I think it's been almost 8, 9 years. I've not reviewed anything. And I'm so glad that I quit uh, because honestly, Antara, when the situation now is really, really sad. I feel really sad when in the sense that film criticism has become a joke, absolute joke. I just don't know how these people look at film criticism.
Yeah.
It is no one wants to know whether you loved the film or hated the film. A film criticism is about your understanding of what you saw on screen. It's not what you had in your head.
Yeah. Or what you wanted the film to
Ah,
be. Yeah.
or what you wanted the show or the film to be. Everyone reviewing these days are more like, अरे ये होना चाहिए था, वो होना चाहिए था, ऐसा क्यों हुआ? But that's not what film review is. माने,
Yeah.
and of course, no one, very few people have actually done any kind of film studies or done a film appreciation course. So their understanding of film starts from maybe Jab We Met, and yeah, and if we are slightly lucky, then Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge. Every day, new websites are spinning up, and because new websites are spinning up, new writers are spinning up. Food blogger yesterday, film critic today, travel expert tomorrow. So, and they also don't realize that that particular day you are a film critic, tomorrow you will be a food critic again, or a travel expert. But that particular day, you just randomly say five things. They stay on the internet forever. But you will not be able to take that out. I read a review where Toothpuri has been said to be copied from Bhutan Bhavishya, and Onikda himself has watched the film. He didn't find any similarity. He didn't find, which is obviously there is no similarity. So I don't know. Maybe I don't know where these reviews or their criticism comes from. I also fear there is a lot of pent up, some kind of angst that another film critic has now become a director.
Hmm.
So maybe uh, why appreciate that person? I don't know. I really don't know. Uh,
But I
but
think
that's
it's
okay.
also, Pratim, there is, I feel, a tendency and an inclination to be provocative because, particularly on social media, most of these reviews do find their way to social media. And I think there, what
Yeah.
works is that kind of provocative writing.
If I was a viewer and I have Googled reviews of a particular show that I want to watch, uh, I would be very confused whom to go with. You know, someone is saying that it's trash, not our show, generally. I'm saying someone is saying that it's trash, someone is saying it's pure gold. Who you go with? You know, uh, so I don't know. I think it's a transitory phase that we are right now with film criticism. I think it's not the end of it. I think it's going to change again. But as of now, it's a very murky scenario. It's just too many people who shouldn't be writing about films. Uh, they are, making themselves heard. I don't know who are hearing, but they are writing of it, and that's not, yeah, that's not a great scenario.
Yeah. Yeah. But really, I think, Pratim, at the end of the day, it's been quite a journey. I mean, all criticism and
Yeah,
reviews and all aside, it's been quite a journey. I think I can speak from the edit point of view at the end of, I think, 1.5 years of edit.
yeah,
We've lived to see Tooth Pari come out, for everyone to watch. And thank you so much. I really wanted to do this session with you to get that sort of in-depth perspective on how you've approached the edit. So thank you so much
yeah.
for putting in your time and discussing all the nitty-gritties of the edit.
No, it was a lot of fun. Every time you put up one of your videos, I would think, "Ki, when will I come and talk about our sessions in your show?" And I'm so glad that we finally spoke about Utpuri. See, honestly, now the show is over. Let's just generally chat. I won't ask you about Bengali spelling, but but to be very honest, Netflix India has been watched like 4 5 years, uh, and how many original Netflix series has come out till now? I wouldn't say it wouldn't even be 50. I think it's so to have my own show, my
Hmm.
idea, my series, my direction, to have my own show on Netflix. I'm extremely grateful to all the forces that aligned for this show to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy there are so many people who are liking it. And it's going to be there on Netflix for people to watch
Yeah.
now, later, 6 months later, 1 year later, 3 years later, 5 years later. It's not about the first 3 days कि हॉल पे उतार दिया जाएगा. So I'm just grateful. I'm so happy that I met you on this journey, and a great team of assistant directors with whom I had a great time, great actors who
Yeah.
gave more than themselves, with whom I can, call up in the middle of the night and chat about other things and not just cinema. And that's great. I think this Tutpuri gave most of us a great time, and
Yeah.
for that we
Absolutely.
need to all be grateful for that.
If you enjoyed this video, then please like it, share it, comment on it, and subscribe to this channel so you're tuned in for our upcoming episodes.